Now the story of a poor college kid and the film and television that he had no choice but to bring all together. It's On Screen Podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of On Screen. I'm your host Dylan Wright, and I'm here to take you on a journey through film and television. So this week I thought I would cover a show that is definitely unique. A show that didn't quite reach the audience that it wanted to, but is still technically going on. The 5th season has been recorded and will be released sometime this year on Netflix, and I'm really excited to see it. It's Arrested Development, if you haven't seen my intro to it already. This is a different show. It has a different sense of humor, a little more pun heavy and wordplay oriented than most other shows. It has a mockumentary style feel to it, where you have Ron Howard narrating the events of the Bluth family, this family that is headed by George Sr., played by Jeffrey Tambor, and he works in real estate, basically, selling condominiums, and there's this area of condominiums that he wanted to sell, Sudden Valley, that didn't take off, and the family gets wrapped up in George's not-so-legal proceedings, and he ends up in jail. So the family's money is held in escrow, and they can't really access it. They go from riches to rags, which was what the creators really wanted to go for because of the housing crisis that was happening during the early 2000s. And this is an all-star cast. You have Jason Bateman as Michael Bluth right off the bat. You have Portia de Rossi, also known as Ellen DeGeneres' wife, as his sister Lindsay. Will Arnett as his brother Job, which it's spelled G-O-B, and he's sometimes called Gob, and it's hilarious. You have amazing people. Michael Cera, before he was big, as George Michael, which is an amazing name. And the names on this show are some of the coolest names I've ever seen. Like, for instance, George Michael's cousin, Maybe. Her name is Maybe Funke, and she may be adopted, maybe not. And it's a little play on words. There's a lawyer named Bob Loblaw. So if you say his name fast, it sounds like blah, blah, blah. And there's just a lot of really cool wordplay in the show, and some of the humor is really unique in terms of how these actors play this, because the Bluth family are the biggest bunch of idiots on the face of the earth. Job especially, Will Arnett, he is a magician, and he thinks he is his father's favorite son, and that he should be in line to inherit the company and all of these different things. But he's just a world-class dumb person. He doesn't know what he's doing in anything, even magic. But he doesn't call them magic tricks, they're illusions. And he has a rival played by Ben Stiller called Tony Wonder. That's really hilarious. The storylines on these shows get really out there. They almost become soap opera-ish at times. Like, for instance, one time Job is dating this Hispanic woman, and Michael falls in love with her. Michael is a widowed single father, and he falls in love with his brother's girlfriend. And when she reciprocates that love, Job finds out that she's cheating on him with his hermano, which is brother in Spanish. Of course, Job, being the idiot that he is, thinks that hermano is a name of a person. So he goes over to a worker, and he's like, "Where is hermano?" And, of course, the man thinks he's talking about his own brother, so he points him out. And Job, of course, tries to beat him up. And it's always a mistaken identity in this show. There's a lot of themes of people not being who they seem. Like, for instance, George Sr. has a twin brother named Oscar, and he sometimes gets mistaken for George, and that's intentional. That's supposed to be what's happening. And it's just really, really funny. A lot of the jokes are a little topical for the time. There's a lot of Saddam Hussein type stuff. George Sr. commits treason, selling condominiums in Iraq. It's a little dated now, but the show ran for 3 seasons originally on Fox before it was canceled. And then it was revived by Netflix for season 4. Season 4 is a little different than the other seasons because it focuses on, basically, an episode is focused on one character in particular. And you get a bunch of different pieces of the overall story when you keep watching the season. Like, for instance, you'll see Michael doing something, and then he'll walk in on Job ending something that he was doing in one of his episodes. So it's interesting to put the pieces together and see what the timeline is for that season. A lot of people weren't a fan of how they did the 4th season, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a different way to go about doing this overarching story, especially when you had such a talented cast that in the 2000s wasn't as well known as it is today. So it's tough getting schedules together and getting everybody in the same area for this long period of time. One character that I really love on the show is Tobias Funke, played by David Cross. He is this fastidious husband of Lindsay, who is, I think he's secretly in the closet and doesn't want to come out with it, but he has a lot of different interesting, fun parts to him. Like, he's a never nude. He never is fully nude. He has like a pair of denim shorts that he wears in the shower. He's a really interesting character. A lot of his physicality is pretty hilarious. Like, he'll be trying to lean casually against a wall and slide down it for some reason. One point he tries out for the Blue Man Group, and he's just dressed in blue the entire time. It's really funny. The show, a lot of the jokes sometimes don't land, but there are some jokes that really are great, especially with the wordplay. And the special guests on the show are just amazing. How did they get these people? You have Julia Louis-Dreyfus, known from Seinfeld, playing a lawyer named Maggie Lizer, and she's a blind lawyer, and that's really a fun role for her to play. And Henry Winkler plays the family lawyer, and he's a terrible, terrible lawyer, and it's always cool to see Henry Winkler in an awesome role like that. They have a mock trial show with Judge Reinhold, who is mad that they just gave him the gig because his first name is Judge, so they change it to mock trial with J. Reinhold, so they can't sell it on the name. And on that mock trial, they have William Hung from American Idol, the She Bang guy, basically as the music, and it's William Hung and the Hung jury. It's some really funny wordplay and some really funny different things that happen in the show. A lot of the story has some crazy twists and turns to it, a lot of secrets revealed, a lot of different family strife, but the main character, Michael, who again was played by Jason Bateman, is just this long-suffering straight man. Everybody in his family is wacky and has something going on with them, but Michael Bluth is a long-suffering second child that's just trying to get his father's approval, even though he never will. He's the most competent, but everybody always overlooks him because he's always there. He's reliable Michael. And his brother, Buster. Oh, Buster. Buster is a mama's boy through and through. He is obsessed with Lucille Bluth, and he's just hilarious. And so is Lucille, actually, while we're on that matter. Lucille Bluth is probably one of my favorite characters on television because she is such a manipulative, hilarious, alcoholic woman that just hates everybody. And she has this fun rivalry with Lucille, too, played by Liza Minnelli, of all people. And it's a really just an interesting show to see the dynamics between the characters. It's a character-heavy show, definitely a study in dysfunctional families. I mean, nobody's family is as dysfunctional as the Bluths, but everybody can relate to these different dynamics of wanting a brother to look up to them, of wanting a father to see that they're doing well, of wanting a mother to respect what they do, of wanting the approval of your family. There's a lot of ideas in this show that, despite it being a really funny show and a really funny premise, resonates with everybody that watches it. And I'm really excited for what the 5th season holds. I'm really excited to see what the writers do with the show. It's going to be a fun ride, no matter what. There's always something fun in the show, especially with the amazing writers that are on this cast. And the cast. The cast is just one of the best casts on television. It's a surprise that the show only lasted 3 seasons, but because of how unique the comedy is and how some of the jokes may go over people's heads, I can see why it was canceled, but I'm glad that it's been renewed. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of On Screen. If you have any ideas for any future topics, let me know. I would love to cover anything that you'd like me to cover. And as always, until next time, take care.